in Scotland, we had got rid of most of our clothing and stuff, and then they told us we had to report to London to an office there. And they told us our job was already taken. It was a very good job. So then they sent us to a place called Broadway, which is in the Cotswold, very pretty little village in England. And that was like for mostly intelligent people.
Yeah.
That was their little town where they stayed until they were found assignment for them.
Beautiful. We visited.
And there I lived with the family. A fellow was a professor at Oxford. And we had like a building over a garage. It was like there we 4 or 5 of us stayed there. And then there was not much to do in that camp. They had some instructions and some different things, you know. And then so one day I decided to work in the office there. And one day somebody came for an interview, says, would you like to be interviewed? And the man that came over, I had to answer everything in German, and he was talking English. And that was Hans Einstein. He was Albert Einstein's son. He was a captain in the engineers. And he asked me a question like, would you mind if the war would be over for you? Because you would be working on post-war German problems.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, fine. I wasn't anxious to go to the front line.
Yeah.
I'm a hero.
Yeah.
So then we went to London and I worked in London for about 3 months.
So you were a corporal?
No, by that time I was a sergeant.
Huh.
I get promoted. And I finished the war as a technical sergeant. But when you're the intelligence, there was no rank difference. See, in other words,
Your peers.
It's like, depends what team you're on.
Yeah. So what did you do with Einstein then?
Huh?
What did you do with him then?
I worked for him.
And what type of work
What
did you do?
Well, one of my jobs was training people how to pick out intelligence. So we had, for instance, we had British naval girls, junior officers, who were on submarine listening posts. They were the daughters and the relatives of diplomats. And they all spoke German. So they were, that phase of the war was over. So then we had to train them, retrain these girls, how to pick out intelligence out of newspapers, out of captured mail, this kind of stuff.
Did you work the whole time in London, or did you ever go over to mainland Europe?
I went to mainland Europe. I was in London until about Christmas of 45.
Okay. Christmas of 45 or Christmas of 44?
44.
Yeah. And so that was, so you went to mainland Europe during the Battle of the Bulge then? It was Christmas of 44.
I was in Paris, but then I went back to England for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I was with Chief Rear, Supreme Headquarters Rear. So in other words, if Eisenhower was on Paris, we were still in England. And if he would further, we followed him. We were the rear of the rear.
But he was there when the bombing, they bombed London a lot. And they finally stopped going. They said, we're going to stay where we are. We're not going to go into the underground.
There was a department stores called Peter Robinson Our office was like a glass roof. There was a conference room. It was on the top floor.
Yeah.
Every time those sirens went, we got tired of going to the basement.
Yeah.
So we just let it go.
Yeah. Hope one didn't fall.
And we had guys from, let's say, on the bottom of the entrance of the building there, the side entrance of that department store, when the employees went in and we went in, it was called a BBC something, you know. But that was just a fictitious name, you know.
Yeah. For the intelligence office?
But we had British people there too. We were 40% American, 60% British. And the British, they were allowed to go in civilian clothes.
Did you wear a uniform or civilian clothes?
I wore my uniform because I got free transportation and everything else.
Not all the time, sometimes you wore.
I used to have lunch at the press club and, one different.
Were you, as an American, were you treated better or worse when you were in London? Did they treat you well because you're American, or did they treat you?
Yes, very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Half the time, for instance, in London, we went to a coffee shop that was near our building, and the girl there would say, "Oh, Yanks, I only charge you so much." They would, they're electing to take your money.
Did
Also had British ration cards.
you had what?
British ration cards.
Passion.
So you got a liquor allowance.
So every soldier had to have a ration card?
Not every soldier.
Yeah.
If you were stationed in London and you were under this particular command,
Yeah.
then you were entitled to different things.
What did you when you went to mainland Europe? What did you do there? Like when you went to Paris, what were you still training people?
Well, in Paris, we generally followed a pattern of we did intelligence work, but in I don't know exactly what you mean.
What
What did you do in Paris?
What
In Paris.
intelligence.
Yeah. So like what kind of what were the functions that you would do? In intelligence work?
Well, we had teams that went all over Europe
Okay.
and followed where there was captured material and so forth, and then we researched this stuff.
Did you?
I wrote up in London, for instance. I wrote up a report on the German customs union. You know, like border patrol guards. They were organized. They were paramilitary. They did from Germany, you know. And we had a dossier of about 2 million Germans. That means we knew more about their lives and their people than they did themselves.
How did you find out about all the? I mean, how did you fill out a dossier on someone?
Huh?
How did you find information on these Germans that you wanted to know more about?
There were some captured documents from relatives, from spies, from everything else, collection of information.
Did you travel throughout mainland Europe then in 45?
Did you do what?
Did you travel through Europe in 45 or did you
45 or 44?
Well, you went to mainland Europe in this Christmas of 44.
Yeah.
In 45, did you start traveling through Europe into different? What towns did you go to?
Well, I was stationed in Belgium, in Spa, which was a resort town. That was our little headquarters for our little group of 70 people. And then I was first sergeant there. And then we had We shared our provisions with the Canadian outfit.
But then you were discharged.
But then we visited different places in Germany where there was assignments. I went to Heidelberg. I went to near Kassel, Germany. There was a salt mine that had the German patent office.
Yeah.
Everything down there.
Did you go into the salt mine?
Yeah, I went in there. Sure.
Was it interesting or just lots of... No?
So when were you discharged? The war wasn't over in 45 until...
Well, I was discharged in December of 45.
Oh, the end of the year. The end.
In fact, I came back on 45 and he says, you want to go home for Christmas and come back later? I said, yes. So we came back at the end of on Christmas time, the end of the year, 29th of December or whatever it was. I was discharged.
And the dad had already started
And I could have had a job in Germany as an administrator there to occupy Germany or something. I didn't want any more.
You just want to come home? When, so you were offered a job, you could come home for Christmas and they wanted you to come back to Germany for a job, or I didn't understand that.
Well, they offered me a job in Germany. They would have said you could go home and then come back.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Would you have still been in the military?
I could have been in a military or civilian government.
Yeah. Huh.
There were different options. But
He's an only child. His parents wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
Plus his parents had already started the business.
My father had that business.
They gave him some rosary cases and he stayed at the Y or something at the time.
No, I once stayed at the Y in Chicago. I stayed at the
train. And it was Monday morning. And he went to a customer.
This was in Boston. That was in Boston. I took the night train, early morning train to Boston.
Yeah.
And I went to one customer. It was on a Monday morning.
First.
And his name was Mr. Reardon. There was at Sheehan's, which was one of the largest religious stores in Boston. And
don't come on Monday.
He didn't say that. He said, I haven't even opened my mail yet, come back later.
Yeah.
So I was so disgusted. I went to the movies.
Yeah.
There was an early movie.
Uh-huh.
And then I went back there and I got my order and I went to the next guy, the next guy, and took a night train home.
That was your first sale for your dad? How old were you when you were discharged?
Well, that was in 46. January 46.
He's born in 21.
So 24?
25 years old.
Yeah.
And he was a confirmed bachelor.
Had your parents seen you since so when you came home when you were discharged, your parents hadn't seen you for a year and a half?
Just about a year. When did your parents hadn't seen you when you got discharged? Since when? A year and a half?
Or more than that.
That you have not been home in between?
No, I didn't go home. I telephoned my parents from Europe when I wrote for the State Department for 3.5 months.
Uh-huh.
I closed the German embassy in Lisbon and in Madrid.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I telephoned my parents.
Were they surprised?
Yes, this is weird.
And there couldn't...
And my mail got home in 2 days. Went by diplomatic pouch.
That's amazing. So it was flown. It was flown if it went in 2 days.
Well, see, I We were assigned from the State Department to Eisenhower had a political advisor, a fellow by the name of Murphy, and he was in charge of us. And I guess they had these teams. There were some British elements there, and some French, and we were the Americans. We were about 4 Americans. And the first thing what we did in Portugal, the embassy was closed, and they had international police guarding it. And then we went in there, legitimately, and we spent the first few days counting hard currency. And they didn't really and the British and the French, they voted on that they needed some money, subsistence.
Yeah.
So they had to include the Americans, so I got $50 a day.
To count money?
Huh?
To count money?
To count money. Well, generally the whole 3 months, the whole 3 months I was there, I got $50 a day.
Really?
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I mean,
So then I had to prove that at that time there was a lot of stuff going on. I had to prove that I had earned that money legitimately, so they had to give me a letter and all this kind of business. Because I was I wanted to send that money home.
Yeah. $50 a day, that's pretty good money. For that time.
And I couldn't spend any money because the embassy, they had a lot of parties and stuff.
Yeah. So there's nothing to spend it on?
Weekends we went to Estoril, which is a resort area outside of Lisbon.
Uh-huh.
So
when you came back, and you started working for your father, how many years did you work for your father before you met Oma?
Oh, before with me?
Oh, I went
I went to
for
work
my
for
father in
him. I went to work for him.
46. I only
Went to work for him
51,
before.
5 years.
So what year did you meet?
51.
51? Oh, really? Oh,
After Granny was still. But it's not easy to come to United States.
Yeah.
And they opened up the mail and cut out things, you never know how much was going through.
Yeah.
And we waited, how many years did we wait? 2 years before, Howard, my stepfather, got to know the right people. 2 affidavits, which we needed to come to the United States. They rejected. And they told, was a cousin of Howard, they told Ludwig, they told him, I told you that, we're never gonna give this lady a visa affidavit because she only married the man, but then we married by proxy, and they said, because she wanted to come to the United States, which so many people did.
Didn't she have to divorce your father?
My father had passed away.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All right.
No, my mother never would have divorced my mom because he was handicapped. So, she tried to bring him to the United States, but to Argentina, but then he passed away and he was well taken care of. And my brother kept going back and forth from London to see him for a while until he went to India, I guess.
How could your brother go back and forth to Germany?
From London.
Weren't they at war at the time?
They were at war.
Yeah, but not right away. He went earlier than we did to go to England.
They went to war.
I guess till September probably he could go.
Maybe once
Couldn't he
or
go?
twice.
Yeah.
I don't think
Probably
I
till September or something.
Yeah, that's not very much.
He could still go back and forth.
Yeah.
And I guess he was in England 5 years, and then he went to do the service, Pioneer Corps. I remember that. And it was either Burma or India, or they weren't exactly sure. My mother was worried where he would be sent to. But then he was in India for 5 years, playing the drums.
All right.